and welcome back to Watching Worst Film, the weekly podcast where we journey through the winners and losers from the Golden Raspberry Awards, the annual ceremony dedicated to the very worst that cinema has to offer. As always, I'm your host Kyle, joined by the wonderful man bear spirit himself, Mr. Jericho Reed.
Thank you for having me.
And we are sticking around in 1994 for the picture Color of Night, directed by Richard Rush, best known for The Stuntman, a movie I've not seen. Have you?
No.
And starring Bruce Willis, best known as everyone's favorite relatable, down-to-earth police officer in the hit movie
Cop Out.
and co-starring Jane March, best known for Color of Night. So, take us away, Jericho. What's your background with this movie?
Okay, so you're thrown over to me immediately. I
wait. I do have more. I just want to hear your background.
I thought you were like, that's it. I've said all I have to say. I'm going to leave you for 2 hours, come back and see what you've come up with. I had not heard of it. It could almost be like a Steven Seagal type title. It has one of those vaguely enigmatic Color of Kill. Like, it has like a pulpy kind of noir title.
Which is, sorry to interrupt, but that's exactly the reason this was picked for this episode.
Okay.
This episode was picked at random by my girlfriend, who was featured in the last episode.
She's upgraded from the girlfriend to you've claimed her.
well, maybe not after this movie, but just because she thought it had that, noir sounding, quite intriguing title. It could be like a Blue Velvet, could go anyway,
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, continue.
So the title was vaguely enigmatic and sort of conjured up sort of pulpy expectations where I was like, okay, I'm open to this. It gives me more flavor than Shining Through. There's a little bit of intrigue there. I was ready for some hard-boiled detectives, some femme fatales, but no expectations. I didn't even know Bruce Willis was in it until we Googled the cast.
Yeah.
So absolutely nothing, really.
Yeah, no, that's the exact same as me. I'm not a massive Bruce Willis fan, as in I watch his entire filmography. Not like Steven, it's very different. So yeah, I've never even heard of this. This is just completely new for me.
Did you have the return of Bruno on vinyl?
Well, no. That's coming up to that. We've got much to discuss. I have a record. I'll post a photo of it here for the Twitter. But I think it's under the Boardwalk EP.
Mm-hmm.
Which was released around the time he did his SNL guest appearance, which is hilarious. But yeah, like unlike Seagal, that's pure irony. That was a hipster purchase from 15 years ago. It's not. It's never really been played. It is a joke.
Okay, that's a relief because I could 100% see you unironically being like, Bruce Willis the musician. Yeah, you might know him from some films. I think he was in Die Hard or something, but Return of Bruno, that's his...
I could have made that joke twice. I was at Billy Bob, best known for his musical career.
Yeah.
And Steven Seagal, best known for his musical career. Yeah. They're less ironic, but no. Bruce, no real attachment, not enough to go through this. But anyway, just for some context for the movie itself and the time period we're in, what is the equivalent at the Academy Awards? Do you know?
94. Oh, hang on. So 94, is that Forrest Gump? I'm always a 1 year off because I'll get the release date, but not the... Yeah, okay.
Narrowly beating out the Flintstones. And a random guess, what do you think? The Simpsons era. We're in a prime time at this, so we might as well feature it. What Simpsons episode? What's the most recent one?
I have to say Michael Jackson because it's going to be him eventually.
It's going to be a broken clock. No, it's Secrets of a Successful Marriage. The great episode where Homer goes to become a teacher about marriage counseling.
Oh, yeah, that is a pretty good one, yeah.
It's my Streetcar Named Desire episode that I spoke to you about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we are in the world. So anyway, before we go any further, with a budget of 40 million, do you know the returns of this film?
Let's say 27 million.
No, I'm not even close today. 46.7 million.
Oh, pretty good. A lot of people turning out to see Bruce Willis's cock and balls.
Yeah. Covering the budget, but not getting a sequel. So yeah, that's our film. This is our film. I got very excited when I seen it's written story by and screenplay by Billy Ray, not Cyrus. But, I got my hopes up. Best known for, as we later found out, Terminator Dark Fate, The Hunger Games, Captain Phillips, and Flight Plan. So,
Which Captain Phillips, great movie. Yeah, really enjoy that.
yeah, no, fair play to him. So let's see what we've got. Now I'm going to hand it over to you. Now it's all up on you, buddy.
Okay, I don't think it's even worth covering at this point to say how we found it because you should just probably accept that this is Piracy the podcast. And
If it's pre-millennium, it's pirated.
if it's like from that Netflix thinks that cinema started in like 2017, so we're not going to rent it off Amazon, so most likely pirated. But this film begins and it gets you off with sort of worryingly high expectations. Like this film peaks within the first 30 seconds.
100%. Even when we started watching this, I watched the first 22 minutes without you, thinking you were just stunned into silence. And I was so excited because, it's what's reflected in my backdrop here. Before you go further, but these opening scenes in general, I didn't know what to expect, and I was so excited.
Yeah, so the first note I have is Dutch angles, because we get a slightly canted angle on a sort of therapy office, and there is a woman who, through you having her as your background, I said she looks kind of like Karen O, but I think it's just in that one screenshot because all you can really see is bangs and red lipstick. And that could be a microphone, I guess. But yeah, not a huge resemblance to Karen O from the AAS, apart from this one still, which Kyle has found. Anyway, she has what I can only describe as a Joker moment, where, like that iconic scene from Todd Phillips's Twisted Joker, where Joaquin Phoenix is crying while pulling his face up into a smile. She's putting lipstick on while sort of like she is crying, isn't she? She's crying, she's moaning, she's just sort of like lamenting her life to her therapist about how things are awful, off-screen therapist. She's like, what's the point? I don't want to live anymore. And then she is in hysterics, and that was where I made the note that this is worse acting than anything in Deadly Ground, which we watched last week and is the other heavy hitter for this year's Razzies. Not least because it includes Michael Caine delivering a worse performance than Steven Seagal, something I never thought I'd see. But she then pulls out a gun, and I think I was typing it to you. I was like, oh, she's filleting this gun because she puts it in her mouth just a little bit too deep. And then, no, she actually just does, like full on.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed. I didn't know what to expect.
Something was awoken in me seeing that.
something I wasn't expecting though, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I'm always up for unpredictability. I'm always up for, genuinely, it was for a thriller. Like I'm not often thrilled, but
no.
The first 20 seconds or so, like again with the unseen psychiatrist as well. Great.
It's an erotic thriller. I'm here to be thrilled, and I'm here to be eroticized. But yeah, I agree. In what would turn out to be an incredibly generic film for the following 2 hours and 18 minutes, where everything we saw was just kind of like something you'd seen before in other crap films or student theater. That opening minute was like something that I'd never really seen before. So then she finishes sucking off the gun and throws herself out a window.
Yes.
So she tumbles down to the streets below, hits the pavement, pool of blood pools out, and then we are introduced to the off-camera therapist, who is our beloved Bruno, Mr. Willis, Dr. Willis, who then adopts the sort of like film noir voiceover to speak about how it was the reddest blood I ever saw. And my note for this is the least red blood I ever saw. Because like I don't know if it's the 1994 effects, I don't know what it is, but like they change the color of the blood. Like I think in order to have it like seeping out and to then change color, it's done digitally, and so because of that, it has a weird pinkish hue, which blood very much does not have.
No, 100%. And I picked up on that as well. Like the impact, let's just say, of this patient is it's meant to be so shocking and it's held on, the shot's held on for as long as possible. But yeah, it kind of looks like and I know 1994 is a different time. I'm thinking Mortal Kombat and all that. All the controversy of gore and violence is going on, and everything's going back, and just to try and keep it rating somewhat, not X, I guess.
Yeah.
I imagine, that this is not what they envisioned when he was writing it. I'm thinking, like Midsommar or something.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
shocking, yeah.
I
But
think you're being
it's
very
not that.
generous in assuming this erotic thriller, which includes Bruce Willis's penis,
I
is trying to
I
avoid
think
getting a higher
I
rating because of having too realistic
I
blood.
I guess we'll get into it more, but the kind of battle between the director and the producer,
Yeah.
when you read about the information, this is what makes me think this. There's, and maybe the director's cut, there's a fifth cut out there with extended gore,
Yeah.
but no. But again, it's the point is, he's been so traumatized by the site that he is temporarily, partially become colorblind to the color red.
Yeah, so that's exactly what the title is in reference to. So when he's speaking about the most red blood he'd ever seen, it then fades into grey and he reveals that he has lost, it's seared into his brain, he has then lost the ability to perceive red because of
Yes.
the horror. And because of this, he seeks help from a peer played by Mr. Scott Bakula.
Mr. Captain Archer from the Star Trek Enterprise, my beloved Scott Bakula, making the jump from, the quantum leap from TV to the big screen. Plays name, who I can't remember, Dr. something, Dr. Bob, I think it was.
It is something funny, yeah.
Yeah, who suggests to him that group therapy is going to be, because it's psychosomatic, it's all in your head, you need to speak about these issues, and he encourages him to get into group therapy. I'm going to put a little comment here. I love Scott Bakula. He is not good. He feels like a TV actor on. I mean, this
feels like a TV film.
This is the moment where it started to really seep in. That, I mean, because instantly the pace has come crashing to a halt. Everything's just now there's just two white men talking in sunny exterior locations and cars.
Yeah.
I felt like this is a TV movie now. This is all my excitement, all the I want the gun back in my mouth here, because I'm panicking that we're gonna get just a bland, strange noir film. And I hate to say it, but Bakula was my first red flag.
Yeah. Could you see the red flag, or did it look like a grey flag? Yeah, he plays Bob Moore, by the way, Dr. Bob Moore, which is a first draft name if ever I heard one. And
what's Willis's character though? What's Dr. Bruno?
Dr. Bruno is Dr. Bill Kappa.
Kappa, yeah. Okay, sorry. I knew it was Bill and Bob, but this can't be real,
Yeah, so listener, if you want to try and guess the twist as we're going along, we will reveal that there is a twist in this movie, and the idea that this could be like a sort of like Flower Pot Men spin-off, like they wake up and they've actually been puppets from a beloved British TV show. That's not the twist, so we'll give you that one, but get formulating about what it is, because neither you nor I got it.
Oh no! I mean, I gave up. Spoilers to my spoiler. There was about 40 minutes to go for this, and I just gave up. I didn't care, and I just started reading trivia. I spoiled it for myself.
You spoiled it for me.
I spoiled it for you because if I'm not having fun, no one can have fun. I mean, I guess, I got a twist, but I think there's a twist to the twist as well.
Yeah, layers,
I think
Inception-like layers to this picture.
I think the M. Night Shyamalan style big twist that, the big talking point is, it's fairly obvious in some ways or another.
Yeah.
But the next part of the twist, or the reason for the twist, let's say, I would never have made it up. No, I would never have guessed it.
My note is here. So, as someone who's been in a lot of student theatre productions, I think I've probably mentioned this on previous episodes. You see a number of tropes reoccur, and the self-help group is one of them. It's a major red flag of, as soon as someone tells you, like, I've written like a deeply personal, very intensive, moving drama, it's about a self-help group, then you're like, okay, sorry, I'm actually my scheduling conflicts,
Yeah.
because it's just like it's an easy thing to do with a stage, isn't it? Is you just need you
Yeah.
need 12 chairs, you put in some kooky characters. The worst one I ever was in, which I've told you about, was I was in a play where I played a man dying of AIDS for my sins, and that was a rather embarrassing low light to my career.
The color of AIDS.
The reason I did it was because I leave, so I'm not there for the second half of the play because I can't take it anymore. So I make my confessions and then I run out in tears and then just hang it in the green room. But anyway, so speaking of the sort of TV movie type trappings of this film, it gets even worse where it then becomes like you're watching Amdram theatre, but with very high caliber cast. So the first note, the most significant one, which will perhaps be a little breadcrumb to the listeners, the first note I have is Richie seeing red. So I don't know if that was a little that's more clever than I felt at like
Oh.
1 p.m. watching 1 a.m. watching this film, being like, oh, Bruce isn't seeing red, but Richie sure is. So one of the early people introduced is a character, Richie, who is, I don't know how to put this in 1994 terminology because I'm either going to misrepresent a film from 1994 or I'm going to get cancelled in 2023 because Richie is non-binary-ish. Are they assigned male, assigned female? Because looking at it, I was like, oh, this is like a trans person who like was born female and identifies as male. That was how
Yeah.
I pigeonholed Richie.
I got that. That's the most, again, the correct way I think was like gender dysmorphia is what I would have probably called it.
In my professional
Like
diagnosis,
in my from Dr.
Buffalo
Bruno,
Bill isn't trans, but I think they are.
and but I didn't think it was going to be a big point. I thought it was fairly obvious as well.
Well, that's
At
the
first,
thing. So I just went
sorry.
off. Sorry. I just went. I was like, okay, Richie, I'm going to assume that's a male name. I was like, it's clearly like a female actor playing Richie. And I was like, but Richie, male name. I just assumed that. I was like, okay, this is what this is, someone who identifies as male. But then in a later scene, someone's like, you're never going to be a real girl, Richie. I don't know. Again, I'm going to wade out of this because I'm going to say something incredibly offensive and problematic. But it was just a complete minefield of I couldn't work out. And again, I don't want to get into its pat territory because it's really none of my business and doesn't matter what Richie's deal is. But I couldn't understand what the film wanted me to think of Richie, which you were like, this is like, because it's kind of important to the plot. You don't know. You're like, is this the movie misrepresenting something? Is this someone within the film misrepresenting something? But it's just Richie is a weird character.
It is, and see, that's it. I thought the film was when Richie's first introduced. I kind of thought the film was trying to pull the wool a little bit over my eyes as well. Like quickly, is that I was like, this is fairly obvious. I didn't know how much they were going to lean into, like you say, any sort of like gender thing.
I mean, in the year
So
of
when
Ace
it comes,
Ventura, I was like, this isn't going to be handled well, but it's at least not going to be of
oh,
relevance to the film. They're checking off archetypes of like, she's a nympho, he's violent, they're
well, that's
gender confused.
so yeah. So we'll move swiftly on. Our advertisers will be very grateful.
Yeah, sponsors are like, okay, well, one of them has blown himself up, but the other one has skillfully passed this parcel away before.
I'll stand up for Seagal. I'll stand up for Cosby, but this is where I draw the line. No, but I've got two notes. Sorry, I'm bugging to get them off. The group therapy room, has a giant hand in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a seat, and the set is very cheap. So when we were talking about the TV movie kind of effect,
yeah,
I've got a note here that was this filmed in Fraser's house. I was like, this is poor. And my second note is Lance Henriksen with a mustache, who is one of the group therapy. He was again, when you're talking about big names, he was the one that first popped out to me. Again, being a sucker for B movies and Alien and etc. etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh great, we've got Lance Henriksen, and then the cast with Richie and I was like, okay, the cast's gonna get great. It's gonna be interesting. At least it might be cheap, it might be student, like you say, like almost amateurishly thrown together, but it's got the potential to go chaotic again. This could just be the little lull. This could just be the little spiritual journey, and we're gonna get back on track. But no.
I'd agree Lance Henriksen was probably the best for me because he's doing the least. He's just Lance Henriksen. And so he's just like a solid presence, and his character probably has the least to do. But they also have Brad Dourif, so
Of course,
like
so this is our Lynch connection. It's not our Twin Peaks connection, sadly. I love Brad. He has a tendency to overact occasionally. Let's
how
say
very dare
politely.
you? How
I was trying to think. I was like, I can't remember what year Exorcist 3 is, but yeah, I love him in that. I
yeah,
love him in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
yeah,
Blue Velvet, June, etc., etc., etc.
yeah.
But he is. I mean, he's having fun. He's enjoying himself here in this movie. He plays. I
Clark.
can't remember what. Oh no, it's not his name. I was trying to remember what his uh problem was. What was his little stereotype? There was an OCD one that was counting everything in the book. I'm sure was Brad. And then there's BDSM,
Clark's
nymphomania,
Clark's OCD.
the older lady, her stereotype that she was older, the BDSM guy, and Richie, and Lance Henriksen with a mustache. That's it. That's all my notes. I'm crashing hard here.
Okay, Scott Bakula is he's helping out his old pal Bruno, and I have a note here which is the direct quote from the film. You got to be in a lot of pain. I cannot feel the pain that I know I'm supposed to be feeling, which just gives you a handle on the dialogue in this film, which
Yes.
is genuinely so bad. I was like, this is almost like what The Room would be like if it was cast with slightly better actors.
100%. I think because The Room looks like it was filmed in 1994 as well, and
Yeah.
everyone dresses like 94, the similarities are ramped up. And as soon as you said it, I mean, I couldn't unsee it.
Yeah.
The
Bruno,
only thing
why you always play psychologist?
yeah, Scott Bakula is the doctor of this group therapy, and
Well, he
he, you know,
recommends
he,
that he recommends he's like, hey Bruno, it would be good for you to come and tag along, and that's where he's sort of helping Bruno manage his grief. And I have
yes.
another note which is fake tears. So it's
Mm,
glaring with Bruno. Someone else has it later on. It might be Bakula. I want to say it's a guy, but I
okay.
can't think of any scene where Bakula would be crying. But Bruno is in tears, and he's got like, well, we spoke about it in the chat where we were like, this is like a great precursor. This is like an M. Night Shyamalan-esque glimpse into the future where we're getting a Bruce Willis clearly does not give a shit performance like
Oh,
10 years before he like perfects the art form. Before the Razzies were nominating him for a bunch of movies what he did where suffering from aphasia. Here we have Bruce Willis clearly just, disinterested. 15 years
I
before
mean,
Cop Out, here's him
I,
just phoning it in. And it's like sure, yeah, like you put fake tears on my face and I will maintain like the same expression that I would have anyway.
it's definitely. I can't say it's the worst lead performance I've ever seen in my life, but it's the
No.
sleepiest. It is definitely one of the laziest, though. It's just, yeah, again, I want some energy or charisma or something from my leads, like something to make me root for you.
Yeah.
Again, this is also a problem with the screenplay as well. Like, I don't care for Bruce the entire film because, okay, well, like, you can't see red and I'm colorblind too, you prick, like I like
What?
I get it, but so like even at this point, I was hoping the suicide from the very start. I thought that was going to be the part of the mystery, the
Yeah.
noir. This
Yeah.
set us up. I didn't think it was just going to be like a trauma event that would lead to the events of the movie.
Yeah, you were
Um,
like, oh, is he fucking his patient? Is she going to come back somehow? Is he
yeah,
going to be framed for throwing her out the window? Is this going to be important any more than just like a person walking out into traffic
you know,
is?
like a
Um,
movie, especially because the director you picked up at the end. I was thinking of it quite early on as Hitchcock. The soundtrack basically just steals at some point, throws some synthesizers over it and a drum machine, but it's very Hitchcockian in the opening section, and that's kind of how it was. Like if you're gonna steal, you're gonna steal what makes these movies great and things. And when we are just in this group setting with Scott Bakula, which goes on far too long, I was grinding to a halt far too quickly here.
yeah. So I just have one final quote for you before we can put our foot on the gas, and I feel like this quote may apply to you in this moment. Scott
Mm.
Bakula says to his buddy Bruce Willis, his buddy Bruno, "Your mind may be shot, but I hope your body isn't." And then they go out and they throw an American football around while 2 inches away from each other wearing tuxedos in an alley. No, they don't. He's like, they go cycling, don't they? Like they're
Yeah,
running around.
the jogging, yeah, or
Is
something.
this film set in San Francisco?
Yeah, I mean, this is a point, especially when your film's about color and color of night in
Yeah.
particular. This is the brightest film I've ever seen in my life.
With
It's
the
the
exception of
brightest.
like two scenes I can think of, yeah, this is a sunny, like
It's
Californian, like the sun never sets in the color of
Yeah,
night.
which gives it that TV again. It's like Columbo
Yeah.
or something. It's a TV movie. It's too bright. It's
The
CSI
DP
Miami.
the
You
DP is
know,
just
like
like scared of shadows. The DP is scared of the dark and is like, listen, I don't deal well in low lit environments, so let's just keep everything turned up and washed out.
that's it. That's the answer. What is the color of night? Washed out bright lights. Ah.
um, and then here we go. So my note, Bacula death,
Mhm.
which is I'm gonna say higher. I know I've probably said something directly contradictory, but higher than gun barrel fellatio. This was the high point for me to the extent that I said it's almost like a Leonard Part 6 frog scene. The frog scene had me in hysterics for a good 5 minutes. This not quite that much, but I was like, this is so ridiculous. I cannot believe what I'm watching.
Yeah. You said it in the chat. It turns into Scream essentially.
Yeah,
Like he gets violently stabbed about 30
multiple
times,
times.
multiple
And then he
times.
runs and he throws himself through a glass window and he's like trying to get away from the person stabbing him and he accidentally runs into a wall of knives and then stumbles into a window. It's like Leslie Nielsen in a Scream movie. Just um,
Yeah,
uh,
no, it is, and it was funny, and I agree with you. And again, it was the okay. Well, this is the ignition point, isn't it? This is where the
yeah.
movie starts.
Hmm.
The rest has all just been fluff and a waste of my time. The movie's a way to begin now, and okay, and now I'm getting it. Now it's going to be we're going to Ryan Johnson it. It's going to be Knives Out 3,
Hmm.
but with Bruce Willis going through the group therapy.
Yeah.
'Cause he assumes control of the group as well, which I quite liked. He says, well, he partners up with a cop. Sorry, I'm running ahead.
No, no,
He,
as we know, I'm a very petty man who's unable to let things go. So, if you glossed over something I wanted to talk about, I would stop you. But the cop is Lieutenant Hector Martinez,
Thank you
who
very much.
is introduced with he's being racist, isn't he?
I think so.
He's doing like jive talk or something to a black man, and then he looks at Bruno and is like, "Yeah, it's a third world thing."
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
because he's
this
he's Latino, so I think that's his like, you know what? I'm also a minority. It's cool. It's fine. It's okay for me to be racist.
Yeah, this character is, I'm going to say now as well, the actor's performance is one of the low lights of this movie. Um, I I was shocked. This is like again when Bruce Willis is sleepwalking and you've got Brad chewing the scenery and buddy Scott Bakula. When you are the worst amongst all these, you're fucking low. He
Okay,
is awful.
So looking at my notes, the remaining quarter are probably the things that are things he said. So his performance is a low light, but I think the character is an absolute
Yeah,
highlight for me.
and okay, I'm gonna agree with you there. I think it's the performance was so bad I couldn't even enjoy the bad lines in the dialogue. Like
That's
we'll
valid,
get
yeah.
this, we'll come to this at the end of when we're wrapping up the Razzies for 1994. But I'm saying it right now. This is my winner. But I quite like this setup. He suggests to Bruno that Bruno takes over because Bruno's still a suspect as well. Everyone in the group therapy had reasons.
Well, he just wants to
Scott,
keep them all together, doesn't he? He's lazy. Is
well, he is, yeah, but like he's sleepy, but he just
Oh
yeah.
dear. Oh, come on, Kyle. You were remaining uncancelled. Um, but yeah.
So I like this though. I like the setup at first.
Do you
Sorry,
have how he introduces himself to the group, or how he
I do
introduces
not.
the group to the news that Bacula's
I'm
dead?
tell I'm going to tell you right now, Jericho. So I'm going to jump ahead because I can't even quite remember when the scene comes in. My only dialogue note is the 80-yard line off screen from "Crazy bastard." They'll give anybody a license when Bruce Willis is flying about in his car and nearly knocks over the person that jumps out the way. That's
Okay.
it.
I
That's
thought you
it.
were out with the
I
dog during that scene.
no no
Okay.
no no. I got that. I didn't miss that for the world.
Okay, so the way that Hector breaks the news to the therapy group is with the immortal line, "Listen up, you fucking daffodils, your shrink is dead." Um,
Which
and
yes, which
again,
is great.
don't be deceived by that line reading into thinking that it's a better character
This
than
is
it is. It's a truly dreadful performance.
I mean, this is the color of night in a nutshell. Is describing it is way more interesting than watching it. If you summarize this film in a paragraph or on a podcast or whatever, it's gonna sound quite interesting.
Yeah,
And already, I think we're overselling it.
we are.
Um, so this is not good. This is not fun. This sounds fun, but it is not fun. Um,
This is like, so imagine, like, we ordinarily we perhaps could have spoken at this length without leaving the opening 5 minutes of the film, but we've already flown through the film being like, okay, we're now about like an hour and a half through the film. Here's like 30 seconds that made us laugh,
yeah.
and it's just
Um,
filled with tedium in between because this was a slog.
this was an absolute slog. That's exactly it. It's just the bits that are funny, and there is funny bits, and yeah, I think you said 15 minutes in total, which is fair. I think if you cut this in half and paste it maybe a bit better and just, sped up things and cut the shit. But anytime something remotely exciting, anytime a line like that's said and there's a bit that you enjoy, it's instantly just brought down. Every scene lasts like a minute too long. I did like some stuff in it. I liked when Bruce Willis meets Rose. I like her introduction,
Thank God,
which
because
must
I didn't have any notes for Rose, so I was, as you were speaking, I was imagining the horror scenario in which we go through the entire movie without speaking about like the erotic element to it. Like we just are like, oh yeah, Rose is in this with the final sentence.
well, no,
um,
yeah. So
but
I like her introduction. I think it's in a restaurant, isn't it, with Bruce and
I'm going to be honest with you,
she's
Kyle. I can't remember.
well, she's shot like through windows and like through reflections, and there's like she's
Yeah.
mirrored. It's
hmm
weird.
There's that
It's
one.
interesting though.
There is that one scene where it's a dialogue scene and it shows you her and Bruno's in the mirror, is he? Or like there's one where it does like a reverse shot of like maybe she has a close up and then the shot of what should be Bruno's close up is in fact a mid of Bruno, is in fact a two shot of the two of them where we're seeing Bruno's reflection and also her reflection, but also Bruno. And it's like,
Hmm.
this is an interesting idea, but the fact that you're only using like that shot would have been cool used sparingly, but they just want to show it all the time. Like, hey,
Yeah.
look at how fucking cool this is. Our DP may be like scared of the dark, but he knows how to compose, right? And
So
it's also like a moment of like Sixth Sense esque heavy-handedness.
Just what I was gonna say.
You know where the Sixth Sense one is, like, because I watched that for the first time like years after the hype, and it says like, I see dead people, cut to Bruce Willis's face, they don't know
Yeah,
they're dead, cut back to Bruce Willis's face.
yeah.
And it's like, okay, how on earth did anyone not get this at the time, because it's beating you over the head with it. But
Hmm.
this is also like, hey, maybe Rose is perhaps not all she seems.
Well,
Ooh.
yeah, that's exactly what I thought. She's not real.
Yeah.
So my first thought was Rose is not real. Rose suspiciously looks like a teenage boy, I guess. Um,
Oh.
I wasn't right away. I was like, oh, it's Richie. It's a twist, but like, I was suspicious. But I liked her introduction because at least it was alluding to some sort of mystery or something different.
For
You
a
know,
moment, I was like, we're watching a sub,
something.
like, we're not watching a sub Hitchcock film, we're watching a sub Brian De Palma film.
Yes,
There
yes,
was like,
exactly.
there was something that was suggesting this like film knew what it wanted to be, as opposed to just hanging out with like a bunch of like mental illness cliches.
That's it.
So after, now that we've introduced Rose to the plot, my other notes are fake tears again, which I think might be, maybe it's Rose actually. Rose might have the fake tears.
Okay.
Bruno definitely sheds more fake tears over Scott Bakula, I think. And
I think
again,
rightfully
it's
so.
a stoic face with just water dripping down. Like, I've never seen a more obvious, like, okay, spray the tears on and action. Because he just could not be
No.
fucked with even looking remotely sad. But after Bruno sleeps with Rose, we get another line from Lieutenant Hector, who says, I think I only have the first part. You stick your dick in a barracuda's tank, and I think it's like, don't be surprised if it gets bitten off. But this is a huge error on my part to not finish the thought, where I'm like, I don't know how it ends. I don't know. I don't know whether I should or should not stick my dick in a barracuda's tank. I don't know what the risk is. You stick your dick in a barracuda's tank and you're gonna have a whale of a time, my friend. Or like, you stick your dick in the barracuda's tank and you are coming out sans one dick. That was another weird
What?
line, because you've just got everyone else speaking in like sort of soap opera telenovela dialogue, and then this
A
guy
hundred
who's like
percent.
swearing and
I mean, yes, because he's almost in a better film. He would be the main character. Bruce Willis would be playing him,
yeah,
and he'd be the detective that's cracking wise like Bruce
yeah,
Willis would do,
yeah.
and trying to uncover this mystery between all these weird psychologically damaged characters, and he's the cool wisecracking one.
Well,
Um,
he's the like hard boiled detective, or he's like the New York cop of like, oh, come to the coast, they said. Stick your
yeah,
dick in the barracuda's tank, they
yeah,
said. Which he even has like a. He even refers to being from New York at some point, doesn't
yeah,
he? Or is it?
yeah, yeah.
Does he? Does his patient kill himself and then he goes out to San Fran to visit
Yeah. So
Bakula?
no, yeah. At first, he's in New York when he's in his
Okay, yeah,
office, and
yeah,
then off to the sunshine. So we get a noir film for 30 seconds,
yeah.
and then straight to the sunny pools.
Which, the thing I wanted to bring up there is just Bruce Willis has a storied history of playing cops, not least in Cop Out. But is he believable as a psychiatrist to you?
I'm gonna be honest. To an extent, I'm not gonna be super hard. I mean, I hate to say this, but like if I can believe Schwarzenegger can be a
Watch what you say.
kin- kindergarten cop, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief if he's willing to put in a bit of a performance. Because I don't think Bruce Willis is like weird looking in terms of like Seagal or Van Damme. He doesn't have a weird accent. He doesn't. He is. I kind of get it, but his performance is so bad
Well,
that I would never believe it.
that's what I want to say is like, he's not great as a psychiatrist. He's not fundamentally like unbelievable in the role in the way that when they have Arnie playing a scientist is, but that's
Yeah.
almost because he's doing nothing. So it's not like he's doing like a cop performance, or like he's
Well,
bringing
that's it.
so little that he can kind of be anything. The
It's
issue
not.
is that you can tell the film desperately wants him to be a cop rather than a psychiatrist.
Well, that's exactly it. I think he can do it. He could make me believe, but he's not going to do it here.
In a better movie, he is capable of playing this part, and
100%.
yeah, it's just the film is like it's almost like they start shooting, and then 3/4 of the way through, they're like, why can't he be Lieutenant Hector? Why can't this be like the tough, wisecracking New York cop?
Because spoilers, Lieutenant Hector doesn't hang dong. um,
Okay, thank you. So
Seeing right into there.
yeah, so the set piece of this film, like the reason that
The reason it's
1994
known, yeah.
audiences came to the theater, what the Wikipedia page reveals, Maxim magazine awarded as the best sex scene in cinema history, Bruno and Rose.
So I don't know. I it's not my place to comment because I don't care. I don't. It's not the room levels. It's not. I don't know what to comment on it. Was really hard to watch this sometimes. I was sitting here with my laptop with headphones on, watching Color of Night, while talking to you, while my girlfriend watched a better movie on the TV in the same room, and it was uncomfortable. So maybe in a different setting, I don't know, it wouldn't be so weird. But I didn't expect this to be our first dong hanging in Razzies. I wouldn't have never have guessed it.
You had spoiled it for yourself because you'd already checked out and were just looking things up about the film, or I don't know, writing your spec Licorice Pizza screenplay. But I just saw it and I was like, stunt double, disappointing. And then, because it is just shot in a like below the like torso down, and then you revealed to me, no, that's actually Bruce Willis, and then the controversy around this. So that's all anyone speaks about is Bruce Willis's dick. That's the degree to which this film has a legacy. It's as the Bruce Willis dick pic. And even our beloved Mr. Razzie, who in the entry to his book for this film, he's like, oh, Bruce gets his teeny weeny out. He gives the time code. He's like, go to this chapter of the DVD and you can see Bruno's teeny weeny. And I was like, that's harsh. Like, it's not laughably, it's just normal. Like, you don't get a great glimpse, but it's certainly not remarkable either way, I wouldn't say. He's underwater, and, like, the DP, like, I don't know, the DP's not being particularly flattering. He might have chosen, like, a better lens, but, like, with the distortion of water, side on, whatever, you don't see it and go like, oh my god, Bruce Willis has like a pinky for a dick. You're just like, yeah, whatever, normal, not worthy of remark. But Mr. Razzie's latched onto that as like, listen, it's not enough to mock this man for having aphasia. We also need to just like humiliate him in front of the entire world for the size of his penis.
Yeah, and that's it. It's I guess if someone, and it's almost like a marketing trick, you know, you would rent the video or whatever with the expectation that this is the erotic thriller where, you know, Willis hangs dong. It's going to be, and it's so, it's not.
Well,
like, I don't know. I wouldn't imagine, I'm not saying himself, I'm just saying I think it was sold that way. The controversy's almost made up.
Friend of the show, Chris Nielsen, who suggested our Seagal episode, I was talking to him about this, and he was saying that apparently the trailer, he's like, I haven't seen the movie, but the trailer was on, I've seen the trailer many a time. It's like, it was in every like Canadian hotel room whenever he didn't specify what he was doing in his hotel rooms, but he was like, it was always on the TV, so I've seen the trailer a bunch of times. And I now want to see the trailer because I'm just imagining like a 90s like Careless Whisper or just like some sort of sax, and they're showing you that scene with a big plastered over like, see, like the thing everyone's coming to see in theaters, Bruno, with like a big sticker over it.
Dong hard too. So, but anyway, like that's what was sold on. I think it's nothing to rent the film about.
Ignore the fact that we've been joking about it like teenage boys for the past checks watch 40 minutes. It's unremarkable. Grow the fuck up, all of you. Come on, have a bit of goddamn respect for one of cinema's greatest actors.
But this is kind of what I've got a point about this. So I guess the erotic part of this erotic thriller is very, I don't know, it just feels tacked on, you know?
It's
Like,
lacking. It's not a part of the film. It
it's
isn't
not
that.
like,
It
it's
isn't
not
in that
indecent
body
proposal
heat
or,
or
yeah,
indecent proposal. There isn't like, even as much as I hated it, body of evidence
yeah.
with like sexless plastic Madonna. There is the structure of that movie is set up in the way that you know where the like erotic appeal is meant to be. It's just they're not bringing it. Whereas in this, there's almost no space for it. It's just like, okay, yeah,
Well, it's that
he's
Dennis effect almost, you know, he solves the crime, full penetration, solve the crime, full penetration, hang on, you know.
Do you like
Um,
the picture I've drawn? It's very generous. Yeah, so back on track. We haven't really spoken about the crime that Lieutenant Hector is meant to be solving, which is that after Bacula is killed, the therapy group just starts getting offed one by one.
yeah,
And so I've checked out. We've covered all we
I
need
have,
to
yeah.
in terms of plot from this. So really everything from now, the denouement of the film is kind of just fair game. If we speak about it, great. If we don't, we don't. But
Yeah.
do you remember who was the first to get killed?
Was it Lance?
No, he doesn't get killed at all.
Oh, balls! I remember. I remember specific deaths. Yeah, I remember the BDSM lad's death.
Yeah, so that's the only note I have. So let's just speak about him because once he's out of the way,
Okay.
I'm done. So I have horny Goofy as my only note for that scene.
Okay.
Because he's got like he's an artist, so he draws all these pictures of people in leather and people getting whipped, and he's having sex with someone, and there's just like in amongst all his art, which is again Dennis-esque, just like him doing the same scene over and over and over and over again. He has a sculpture of Goofy, and I know in our like 2023 meme culture, Goofy's become like representative of like sickos and like I'll do it again or whatever. But in 1994, pre-Goofy movie, even Goofy was more innocent,
Yeah.
and so for he has like just like sticking out, he has like a sort of like bug-eyed like Tex Avery wolf Goofy who's just sort of like looking at all these scenes of debauchery around him. It's really jarring. To the extent that when the guy then gets killed, I was still processing Goofy, and I was like, "Oh, he's been killed, whatever, okay."
I never had such a. Again, I always like to say I've got quite a low bar. You know, like to entertain me, it doesn't take much.
The man who
make
was
me like
amused by colours in Leonard Part 6.
exactly, and BDSM boy hanging upside down with chain, bleeding out as well.
Yeah.
Didn't even blink at it. I was so checked out at this point that I mean that's unlike me. If this was a scene in On Deadly Ground, the exact same, I would have been analyzing it, and the film had me invested. But I've never had a film actively put me off its own story. And again, this could be circumstances. I did think this. I was like, is it watching it on a laptop with my headphones in at 1 a.m? Is it the director's cut and the extra half hour that's stuck on that's just killing me here? But I don't think it was. I think this is me looking for reasons to try and excuse it. It's fucking boring. And when BDSM gimps with goofy statues are getting bled out and I don't even blink, you've got a problem.
Okay, so on that note, I have 3 final notes for you. So do you want to just power through them?
Yep. Go.
Okay, snake in the mailbox.
Yes. One of my favorite scenes. My last ever note about it was he gets a snake in the mailbox, Bruce Willis does, and he jumps back from it. He is like 5 feet away from it, but he's frozen and acts like it's on top of him to try and get help. He could the snake doesn't even do anything. It's just looking at him, and it's just chilling out. And I didn't even think it was like, he reports it as well to the lieutenant, and I expect the lieutenant to be like, well, yeah, like, we're in
welcome to California.
Like, there's one in your bed, you know, like, Jesus Christ. That felt real TV-esque as well to me. And
It's
yeah,
like
so
Indiana Jones, you're just looking for the pane of glass with like Bruno refused to get within 8 feet of the snake, so that's why. And
exactly.
the DP's not good
Um,
enough to cheat the distance.
no.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, next note.
Dale.
Okay, yep.
So
Well, that's the twist.
just straight to the end.
Straight to the end. So I'll try and remember. I'll try and remember it. So the revelation, the big twist, is that Rose is Richie,
Yeah,
because she had a brother called Richie
yeah.
who was molested by someone,
Dr.
and
Needlemeyer.
thank you, and either dies or commits suicide,
Richie killed himself.
killed himself. And it turned out she had another brother as well,
Yeah.
called Dale, who is the murderer. And I can't remember how he forced her, but I think he's the reason that she becomes Richie, and it caused all the splits for like.
Yeah. So
Because what was her other name called? She had another name when she was sleeping with like all the group.
honestly, I'd kind of forgotten about this until I have the Wikipedia page up. That's how I got Needlemeyer. But
Yeah, it was way
and
too
this
quick.
said,
You were
yeah,
not paying
no.
that much attention.
This says
Um,
that her other personality is Bonnie, but honestly, I'd
ah,
forgotten that it was even named. I was just like, it's mystery person who's fucking all the other patients, because they kind of talk about it a little
they
bit
talk,
in terms of
well,
like,
they all conveniently meet a woman
yeah,
the same day that they all get seduced and fall in love with,
yeah.
and no one blinks an eye that it could be the same lady. Oh yeah, they
No,
describe
they
her
all
as
had meet
Bruce.
cutes with them.
So that's the big twist. So Dale, I don't know who played Dale. I don't recognize the actor.
So Dale,
Um,
interestingly, Dale is black on Wikipedia. Andrew Lowry is Dale's actor, but I could swear I'd seen him before. Like
okay.
he looks kind of familiar.
So if you're listening, Andrew, what was it? Andrew
Andrew Lowry, come on the
Lowry,
podcast.
come on the podcast and tell us about your other roles.
Dale
Um,
Dexter, come on down.
this is an awful twist. I was so confused. There's a strange scene, like, so the ending is insane. It
The
is
ending's
a warehouse.
wild.
It's in a warehouse. It's shot like the end of Batman with the Joker and Batman at the church. Rose is committing suicide or nail gunning herself.
No, so
Am I confused?
in case we haven't made it completely clear, Rose, Richie, Bonnie is sleeping with all the patients, and then Dale
Yeah.
is murdering them.
Yes.
And so then,
But she's not aware of the murders, is Dale though, right?
no, because presumably she would be conscious enough to like tell Bruno, like, because Bruno doesn't meet Bonnie, does he? He just
No,
meets
he meets
Rose.
Rose because
And
she's only
so,
her true self with
as
Bruno.
Rose, she's not conscious of what the other two are doing. I don't think.
Okay.
I believe perhaps, or maybe she's keeping it secret. Who the fuck knows? This movie. Just speaking of attrition last week, this movie ground me to a pulp. Where even though the ending was kind of crazy, I was like so checked out that I was like, whatever, hurry up and end, please.
Yeah.
And when they reveal the like Richie Rose twist, I said to you, I think I was like, why are we still watching this? Like, why is this film still going on? Because it then has to get into like, oh no, Dale's like kidnapped Rose and like he's gonna kill
That's what it
Rose,
is.
and
That's what it is.
they're
Yeah.
in a warehouse and like Bruno's there and like the racist cop is there, like Hector's there, and like it all kicks off, and I can't quite remember who kills Dale, but someone kills.
Martinez does. He jumps out of nowhere, and he's like, "It's a
Okay.
good thing. He's a good thing I've been following you, Bruno, or
It's a
else
good
you'd be
thing I'm a
dead."
pervert. It's a good thing I've been watching from the shadows this whole time. And then there's like some weird, like, they don't really, like, M. Night Shyamalan was also in the shadows taking notes for Split because Rose is like, oh no, I'm going Richie mode, I'm going Richie mode. And Bruno's like, no, it's okay, Richie's not here, Richie's not here. And like there is that moment where like I don't know, she's dealing with the consequences of like many years of of abuse, but Bruce talks her out of it. And then like Dale's
Yeah.
dead, and he kind of like kisses her better.
Well,
She's gonna
well,
throw herself.
that's my only last thought is that by kissing, all her trauma and split personalities melt away, and she
Yeah.
becomes Rose. And what color is Rose? Rose is red, and now Bruce can see red again. And
Well, that was like, to my eternal shame, she's gonna throw herself off the roof, and there's almost like the dolly zoom shot off the roof, and that was when it dawned on me within the last 2 minutes of the film, as Bruno finds himself bookended with the woman that he loves. I was like, oh, so this is Vertigo. Okay.
yeah, I mean,
I'm so ashamed that it took me this long, but I was like, oh, okay, that's what this is. This is Hitchcock made by an imbecile. Once
yeah.
again, I retract that if the director is interested in coming on the podcast.
Thankfully, the director is dead, so you will not be hearing this.
Okay, cool. He's a dead imbecile then. No, shouldn't speak ill of dead. But yeah, this is Hitchcock ruined by studio interference.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, they kiss, and Rose's fractured psyche heals itself into one cohesive unit, and Bruno suddenly regains the ability to support our beloved Aberdeen. Come on, you Reds. It's all back. And then,
That's
yeah,
it.
that's it.
Roll credits, out, close.
They don't even do
exit.
they don't even do fade to red or anything like kind of cool
No.
with like, it's just like done, great. And so we watched this film, and then I read Mr. Razzies entry, and Mr. Razzie was like, said that when he was seeing this in the cinema, he was like sitting in the empty theater, and he was like, as a film was sort of like the credits were playing out, he was like, yeah, this is amazing, great contender, only thing it's missing is original song. And then halfway through the credits they play something. Me and you were not as generous with our time, because as soon as we saw director, we're like, gone, great, it's bed, see you later, goodbye, Bruno. Okay, so the most redundant question that has ever been asked: do you think this is Razzie worthy?
Absolutely, unquestionably. This is, in my opinion, this is going to sweep it. How about you?
Yeah, so I feel like we'd had a kind of good run lately. We were coming off the back of our special, but like when we spoke about Leonard and Sophie asking us to place that in the all-time rankings, and we're like, Leonard was kind of mid, and like Saving Christmas was also certainly a thing, and Dirty Love was also like its own thing.
Right.
Whereas
So
this was just bad.
I 100%, and this is kind of mean. This is when it comes crashing down. We were watching. Our last episode was on Deadly Ground. Loved it. Was one of our most agreeable. Like, we both enjoyed the film. Before that, we had this great run of terrible comedies. You know, we had Bill Cosby and Leonard. We had Dirty Love, and we had Saving Christmas. All of them barely scratching 90 minutes. You know, they're here, they're there, they're gone. They either make you laugh or you forget about them.
Yeah.
But to trudge through a fucking 2.5 hour erotic thriller with Bruce Willis, this is where it all comes crashing back to reality. This is not good. It sounds like we're describing it so much more enjoyable.
No.
It looks funny. Like, I didn't enjoy this. In my end up ranking, it's not going to be at the bottom because it is still a movie. There is still weirdness. It's still, I can understand why it might be a cult classic to some people, because explaining it to someone, you could make it sound better. You could convince yourself that you enjoyed it more when you talk about it. But this is an awful movie.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So we'll run through the other nominations that it got, aside from the win for Worst Picture. So Bruce Willis, Worst Actor in Color of Night and North.
That was nominated, not won. Did you?
Yeah, that was a nominee.
Wow. Okay, I thought you'd won it. Okay, no, right. Okay, I would have give it to him. Yes, Bruce Willis. This is the worst. He sleepwalks it. He doesn't care. Just because he's hanging dong, it doesn't, warrant anything. Especially, I think we'll talk about it, but how notorious or infamous North is as well. Like, if you're in two of the most agreed worst pictures of the year and you're awful in both of them, the Razzie is kind of mandatory at that point for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a surprise.
Then worst actress nominee, we have Jane March in Color of Night as Rose.
Okay, so she's not an actress. I think it's
Yeah,
quite
she's
obvious quite
nowhere
quickly.
near in the film enough to be
Um,
considered a lead.
she's not a lead. We haven't really spoke about her performance on the when discussing the film, but I don't think she's. I mean, she's bad, right? Like, I'm not gonna defend it, but she tries.
It's a little. It's a little.
There's effort. There's effort. There's not just chewing through the scenery or having fun. There's a sincere performance of trying. She isn't an actress. He's not a director. The screenwriter can't write a story, so everyone's to blame, but I don't think she's the worst. I wouldn't personally give her the award.
Worst supporting actor, Jane March as Richie in Color of Night.
No, you can. What's your opinion on that one then?
My opinion is that she is in the film more as Richie. She has more of a stamp on the film as Richie than she does as Rose. Like, Richie has more to do. Rose is just there to sleep with Bruce Willis. So
Yeah.
it's easier to say Richie's a bad performance. But I think this is like, I don't agree with Mr. Razzie pulling this fast one on us with
Um,
the double nomination. So I would give it to Jane on the basis of her performance as Richie, but I wouldn't go for the double nom.
okay, is that the only worst supporting actor?
Yeah, that's the only one.
Okay, that's a shambles.
You
The
expected to
lieutenant,
see Hector.
I
Yeah.
100%, like not even just expected to see him. I thought he'd won it.
Well, I
Um,
was saving that for the second half, keeping my powder dry, but absolutely he would be a strong case for winner, never mind nomination. Worst supporting actress, we have Leslie Ann Warren as Sondra Dorio,
yeah, who's that?
the nympho.
Oh, okay, yeah, thank you. I whatever. The part's the part. She doesn't. It's TV level performance, but it's a TV level character and a TV level script. So, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna. She could win it, but she could whatever.
It's genuinely insane to me to single her out because that is the strongest ensemble I've perhaps ever seen in terms of it is hard to it's hard to fit needle and it's hard to fit Bruce Willis's dick in between them. They're so
Yeah.
they're all so bad. It's really hard to single anyone out apart from Lance Hendrickson. Where to
Mm-hmm.
just nominate her, I was like, she was no better or worse than any of them, including Academy Award winner Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
So I'll just say Academy Award nominee Brad Dourif, so I can splice that in case he didn't win for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And indeed, like Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award nominee Brad Dourif. Yeah, so then that brings us on to worst screen couple. Any two combination of two people from the entire cast in Color of Night.
Fuck off. That like you can't. No, you can't just do that. You could genuinely see Bruce Willis and Jane March here alone because
100%.
zero chemistry, weird age difference.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like they're strange on screen. I
Yeah.
give you that, but no, not any combination. Because Bruce Willis and Bakula felt like friends almost. They were
Yeah.
so they
They
had
were
some
like
chemistry.
friends. It was like a quantum leap, like moonlighting reunion of like. It just felt like you were backstage at like some
Yeah,
TV
so
awards watching them hang out.
so no, so that's a lie, and he's wrong. So yeah,
Yeah,
scrap that one.
congratulations. They could have done like Richie and Dale would be another
Yeah,
combo I'd be open to, but worst director Richard Rush for Color of Night.
yeah, it's a nomination, not a winner, right?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
nomination.
yeah, he's really bad. It feels like every character here is directed by someone different, or has just no direction at all, and they're just kind of guessing. I said like Brad chewing through the scenery, Bruce sleepwalking, Lieutenant Martinez just doing what he wants. It's so imbalanced through each performance.
Lest we
There
forget
isn't.
the Joker at the start.
Yes. There's no vision here. It feels so and this is the director's cut we watched, but it still feels so disjointed and chaotic. There's just it's a poor direction job.
Yeah, completely agree. Worst screenplay, Color of Night, screenplay by Matthew Chapman and Billy Ray, story by Ray. And yeah, nothing more
Yep.
needs to be said. This is just like, I want to say maybe the screenplay was better than direction in that you can at least imagine a draft of the screenplay that De Palma might consider. Like, he would say, like, yeah, do another pass on this. But
Yeah.
the director's the one who really drops the ball, I would say. Whereas
I'm
the
still
story.
I'm still blaming the screenplay though for the dialogue, and
Oh, true. Yeah.
and that pulls it all back down.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is dreadful as soon as you point it out. And then worst original song, The Color of the Night.
Okay, so I listened to this before the podcast because I didn't hang around to it. It is quite inoffensive. It's got like I quite like a title song theme.
Is this a Bond thing that
it could be a
a
Bondian
Bond thing you've developed? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it easily could be, but like this, if this was an indecent proposal, I would have probably praised it. So I'm not. I don't think this deserved a nomination. And when we read it, Mr. Razzie's review, he's only picked this just to give it more nominations. This is not like it's not an Academy Award winning song, but it's not your worst original song of the year, especially in 1994 and what everything is coming out around this time. Yeah,
Well,
no, it's not.
funnily enough, it was nominated for a Golden Globe. So, yeah, you're
See?
right. Not an Academy Award winning song.
Exactly.
Okay, so the other thing that remains to be said, and I'm going to need you to fill time while I think because I am completely out of ideas. How do you fix this film?
Cutting it in half is the easiest way. Like the opposite of the director's cut. I would like maybe the producer's cut, but no, I mean cut it in half. 87 minutes. Highlight the better parts of it. The simplest casting rechoice of Willis to someone more appropriate might have helped. It wouldn't have made it any better, maybe, but like if he wasn't sleepwalking through it, then maybe I would pay attention a little bit more and give a shit. But yeah, cutting it in half and recasting Bruce is the quickest, easiest way. But this is quite unsalvageable.
That's the thing is like there's so many things wrong with it that it's really hard to identify. So like we've kind of spoken already about a lot of them. Like if you make Bruce Willis a cop, if you make him more of like a tough, street smart, wisecracking guy, like if you have this film come out 30 years earlier and be directed by Alfred Hitchcock, if you like
Yeah, if it's an entirely different film, it's better. If it's in the better hands. I think following on Deadly Ground, I did picture the scenario with Seagal. You brought it up, like Seagal hanging down, but that's not the point. If Seagal made this film, right, he would have 75% less lines. He would, right?
Yeah.
He'd catch the killer in the first half an hour, and then he'd solve everyone's problems.
Listen, mental health is an important crisis facing the nation. People are ashamed. They're stigmatized. We need to take action.
And they would. So you would have caught the girl at the start as well. By the wrist. There's other things around 1994 that could have made this more fun, but this is not. I don't think it's an easy fix.
I do have one for you though, which is there are moments when this film sings, and it is in the Joker scene at the start, and it's in Scott Bakula's death. So if you just give this more of a Wes Craven type energy, where all of the killings are really weird, like, or maybe even Seven, with the like John Doe's twisted killings. If you make this
100%.
more pulpy and just like insane, if you
Pick
just
a lane.
exactly,
Go,
if you
go
you
one
just-
way or the other, but you can't have your cake. You can't have your thriller and have an erotic topping. You need
you need to push it a little bit more in either direction. You either need more saxophone and like sex scenes and showers, or you need more like sort of like cheesy weird killings, or you need more sort of ridiculous soap opera dialogue. But just like the blend of things that it is this is the worst version of this film.
It's exactly it.
And so, on that note, we are going to say goodbye for now, and we will return to you with the second half of the podcast, where we will be covering all of the other winners and nominees from 1994.
See you soon.
Welcome back to the second half of Watching Worst Films, where we cover the also rans and the other categories from the Razzies for 1994. So, Worst Picture, of course, Color of Night won. Then we have North, So, interestingly, you have actually seen North, so I will leave
I
that for
have,
you.
yeah.
I
Um,
I have seen about 5 minutes of North because I didn't have time to watch all of it, but I think that might be what we do for all future episodes is we watch the first 5 minutes of every nominee, and if we decide we want to watch any more, then that is our basis for like, okay, North's not worthy on that because I was kind of compelled by North. Like I couldn't watch it all in time for this, but I would want to see more.
North is it's one of those, and it's kind of I speak about a lot. At the time, it's hated, it's infamous, again, oh, blah 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 blah. But when you watch it back now, especially after what cinema has become as well, you know, like it's a bizarre film. I mean, I can't even describe it. Like it's a story of young. I watched this because it's Rob Reiner, director of Spinal Tap, one of my favorites. It's written by Alan Zwiebel from SNL, like the Glory Days. He was Gilda Radner's writing partner. It's got a gluttony of SNL cast that I
It's got an
enjoy. Like
all-star cast in general.
it's a great cast, and it's cameo heavy. You know, people that are in and out. Yeah, I couldn't tell you who like certain characters were in half of it, but and it deserves a rewatch. But it's short as well. It's under 90 minutes, I think, and it's I watched North twice in a row over Color and Night.
Okay. Then we have On Deadly Ground. Have you seen that film?
Have I seen On Deadly Ground? Yes, love it. Glad it's not the winner.
Yeah, that's really all I have to say is like that would be absolutely obscene if On Deadly Ground won over this because this
Oh
is
yeah,
like dreadful. Hated watching this film. And so yeah, that's really don't want to dwell on that. If you want to hear our thoughts
yeah, no.
on Deadly Ground, listen to the last episode. Then we have The Specialist, which
which
you have not seen.
which I've not seen. Like okay, so I am a big Stallone man. I just didn't know about this. I should have known about it. I
Yeah.
want to see it. I will watch it and I'll report back in a future episode. But
You realize you've
yeah,
said that for at least one film in every single episode, and you've
I
watched
have.
none of them. That's going to be our next specialist. Kyle's just going to hit us with, like, okay, episode 1, I said I was going to watch this. Episode 2, I said I was going to watch this. Here we go,
Okay,
rundown.
I won't because but like see 1994 is what some I spoke about. I've seen a lot of films from this time. This is my era essentially.
Yeah.
Even looking through
As
some of the
like a
nominations
4-year-old, you
beforehand,
were just.
I was in my element here. I haven't seen The Specialist, so I can't comment on this.
Yeah.
So I'll pass.
Wyatt Earp. So I rather ambitiously started watching like 10 minutes of Wyatt Earp before realizing it was 3.5 hours long, and I didn't have enough time in my week, and also I didn't want to consign myself to another 3.5 hour Kevin Costner epic when I have the
Yeah.
Postman ahead of us. So
I,
no
I love
knowledge.
nothing. I love nothing more than westerns. I will sit through a 3.5 hour western, but I cannot stand Kevin Costner. It's
Yeah.
going to be something that will come up in the future, and I won't watch a 3.5 hour western with him.
Listen, I love nothing more than Gene Hackman westerns, but I will not watch. I will not watch anything that is not Unforgiven. Um, okay, so that's a smooth segue into worst actor, where we have Bruce Willis, Bruno in Color of Night and North. So we kind of covered the Color of Night side of things, but we'll discuss North, where he is credited as narrator, Easter Bunny, Gabby, tourist, sleigh driver, Joey, fingers, FedEx driver.
So I haven't seen North in a wee while. I've got to be honest. It is a younger film for me. I don't remember Bruce Willis in North at all.
Yeah.
I know it's like Elijah Wood, and I'm like, oh, there's Dan Aykroyd in my head, and there's John Lovitz is there, but there's the SNL years. You know,
Yeah.
Elijah Wood's going on this journey. I can't remember Bruce Willis. They are basically small parts, bit parts. You can't call the narrator that your main character. Yeah, I'm gonna give him a pass on that, but he should have won for Color of Night.
And then we have Sylvester Stallone in The Specialist as Ray Quick. So that's it.
Great, great name, but Stallone, he's not gonna. He
I
doesn't
was
deserve it.
okay. I wasn't about to say that, but I was going to say Ray Quick enters the pantheon of all-time Stallone character names. Speaking of which, Steven Seagal in On Deadly Ground as Forrest Taft.
a joke. Seagal's not a good actor, right? And we spoke about this in our last episode. You can get our thoughts, but we always said the sincerity, the passion he puts into it, especially for a Seagal film. He is genuinely quite endearing. It's weird. It's not as bad. I'd rather see someone give a shit and be passionate than sleepwalk through 2.5 hours.
Yeah, so I'm not as hot on Seagal as you. I would give him the nomination. He's like a clear league
No,
away.
yeah,
He's
no,
like a
no, no.
clear
I'm
league below
I'm
winners,
not gonna.
but
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not fighting the nomination. I'm just glad.
yeah, he's
I'm defending why it's yeah.
yeah, okay. And then we have another slightly peculiar one: Macaulay Culkin in Getting Even with Dad, The Page Master, and Richie Rich. So, what of those have you seen?
So I've seen The Page Master and Richie Rich.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Getting Even with Dad. I've seen The Page Master and Richie Rich quite a lot as well. These were like I had The Page Master on VHS. I didn't have Richie Rich, but it was a rental, at Home Alone and stuff. I really like The Page Master, and Richie Rich sucks, but a lot of people remember it. Macaulay Culkin is a child in it as well.
yeah,
I like him. I think he's fine in these roles. I like young Macaulay Culkin. I think it's weird that he's here. Feels like a dunk again.
yeah.
And yeah, I don't like it. I wouldn't have him near here.
So the only one of these that I've seen is the Page Master, which I agree. I was almost more a fan of the Page Master book because I don't know if my parents got me it or if it was something my dad got free from
Of
work,
course.
but I want to say I had the Page Master book before actually having seen the Page Master, and I liked it. Even as a kid, I got the vague sense that I was like, this feels like this is trying to send me a message, or they're trying to
Oh yeah.
sell me on something. Like I should go to the library, and we already all went to the library every week. So it even as a kid, there's that faint pricklings of like, they're trying to make me learn something
See,
here.
I this is the god honest truth. Okay, I like the film so much I missed the message and bought the Super Nintendo game
Oh
instead.
my god, that's
Because
perfect.
I didn't want to read. The film taught me nothing except that I enjoyed it.
And then, of course, the winner is Kevin Costner in Wyatt Earp as Wyatt Earp. So neither of us have seen this, but we both have very cynical opinions of Kevin Costner. So
Yes.
yeah. Worst actress, Uma Thurman in Even Cowgirls Get the Blues as Sissy Hankshaw.
So it's a film I've not seen. I can't comment on.
Neither have I. Gus Van Sant, though, I know you're a big Gus Van Sant fan. I believe you said that the Psycho remake is better than the original. You
It's
said
it's
that?
it's the best Psycho since Psycho 4.
Okay, and then we have Jane March, of course. Joan Chen in On Deadly Ground as Masu.
She's not great. I've said it before in the last episode, but she's what her role is, which is it's basically just running around with Seagal. It's such a mind, like I can't. She isn't good in it though, so I
Yeah,
kind of understand the nomination.
I wouldn't really say that's an actress performance, that's supporting.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
yeah, it's not good, but it's not in the right category. Then we have Kim Basinger in The Getaway as Carol McCoy. Have you seen that?
I haven't. No, I
Walter Hill
haven't. Oh,
screenplay.
I know. I should have seen it.
Michael
I clicked
Madsen
it.
and James Woods.
And Alec Baldwin. So yeah, sign me up. No, I've not seen it.
And then we have Sharon Stone in Intersection and The Specialist as Sally Eastman and Mae Monroe. Have you seen? Well, you've not seen
The
The
Specialist. No, I've not
Specialist.
seen. I've not seen Intersection either. So this is a little poor one. I I'm not like so. Sharon Stone's in what Seagal film is she in? She's in
Oh,
Above the Law, I think it is, and she's really good in it.
yeah.
And we're going to talk about her again in the future with Basic Instinct 2
And
um,
Catwoman.
and Catwoman. Yeah, so she's going to come up again and again. I don't know what my thoughts are on her at times and performances. So seeing 2 nominations, maybe this is the correct one, but I'm going to pass.
So I have seen Intersection. So Intersection is a very bizarre little oddity in that it is in the very select group of films to have shot in Vancouver and to actually be depicting Vancouver. Because
Yeah.
normally tons of things shoot in Vancouver, but it's always as Seattle or as somewhere else. Whereas Intersection is Vancouver, and it's so Vancouver. Like, they show you all the landmarks, like there's like they're name dropping streets all the time. It's like almost room-esque levels of establishing shots. There's like lingering shots of like Richard Gere sending mail where there's like an address in North Vancouver. And I was like, hang on, is that my friend's address? Like, have I
Yeah.
been to this apartment building? Like, why are
So,
they?
an intersection, 50 Shades double bill, and
Well,
you'll be right back at home.
that's what I was gonna say. Is if we're making our ultimate Razzie contender, so it's gonna be shot by Jan de Bont, despite strong contention from whoever shot Color of Night. It's gonna be shot by Jan de Bont. Joe Esterhaas is gonna write the screenplay. I think it has to be like shot in Vancouver because between Intersection and 50 Shades and Twilight movies, Vancouver doesn't have the best reputation with the Razzies. And also, we're going to find the rights to some sitcom from the 50s and 70s, and we're going to adapt that not particularly attentively.
Well,
But
it all hinges, though, can Mike Lindell get into Canada?
ooh,
If
yeah.
he can't, then we're going to have to reshoot somewhere else, buddy.
So I realize I've spoken a lot about Intersection and not so much about Sharon Stone, partly because I was just so weirded out by it. I was like, it felt like a film made just for me, like a Vancouver in-joke. Like, why are they talking about like Denman Street? But Sharon Stone, it's like a kind of, it's an odd movie. Like, it's really bad. I would
Okay.
actually say Intersection is a worthy like nominee for picture. It's a really weird plot where Richard Gere is like cheating on his wife with Richard Gere is cheating on Sharon Stone with someone else, and then spoilers, he dies, and it ends up like Sharon Stone has a letter that he wrote to the other woman saying like, I can't leave my wife for you, and he phoned the other woman being like, I'm gonna leave my wife for you, and they both kind of like meet up over his corpse and go like, oh, that's nice, he was ours, and then go their separate ways. But it's truly a bizarre film.
Okay.
Soap opera-esque dialogue again, people speaking in ways they've never spoken. Richard Gere is really bad. He's probably worthy of a nomination. He has a weird haircut. It's kind of a bit mullety. But Sharon Stone, of the people in Intersection, is probably one of the better ones. So I'm gonna assume that this is just the dead weight of Sylvester Stallone dragging her down to a nomination.
Fair play.
And then, worst supporting actor, we have Rob Steiger in The Specialist as Joe Leon. Say no more, Sylvester Stallone with the Stallone curse, destroying everything he touches.
I love Rod, so I do want to see this film because of the cast, but I've been burned on that in the last this episode. I've been burned on that. Yeah, I still like him as an actor though.
And then, okay, I'm gonna just devote devote plenty of time to this. William Shatner in Star Trek Generations as James T. Kirk.
So I expected to see Generations on here a lot more, even in the build up to this. Generations is not like, I like Generations a lot.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. It's got all the elements I have. It has, Shatner, and it's got Kirk and Picard, rather, the two captains.
It was just missing Bakula.
It was it's just missing Bakula. It's got Malcolm McDowell as the villain.
Another film like just plucked straight from your imagination.
It's just perfect, isn't it? It's something I'm not going to speak too much about it because once we eventually get to Star Trek on an episode with Star Trek 5, I will talk about this. But it is a good movie. William Shatner is lazy in this, but he's not the worst.
Really? That's a surprise. Shatner? Lazy? Are we speaking about the same guy?
I leave my boy alone, okay?
She came from Greece. She had a thirst for knowledge.
He is here though because he's not the worst part. He's not the worst supporting actor in Star Trek Generations. He doesn't deserve to be here. If he deserves to be here, then he needs to be nominated for nearly every Star Trek movie so far. It's not you can't come in 7 movies in
Yeah.
Even because he still tries to
You've missed the
upstage.
train. You've missed the Enterprise, Mr. Razzie. That
Yeah,
ship
like
has sailed.
he still tries to upstage and outact, Picard on screen, and that's fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, he doesn't deserve it here.
William Shatner alongside Jane March and Dan Aykroyd. Who'd have thought we'd ever see it? So Jane March as Richie in Color of Night, and then Dan Aykroyd in Exit to Eden and North as Fred Lavery and Patex.
So I haven't seen Exit to Eden. I have seen North. So I am a Dan Aykroyd fan, I guess, to some extent, with a massive asterisk. Anything post Nothing But Trouble Dan Aykroyd is not the same. We're on the slippery slope towards Ghostbusters, Blues Brothers 2000, and future Ghostbusters sequels. This is where he becomes almost like a caricature of himself. You're not going to get anything that he hasn't extensively done and bored to death as well. Yeah, so I disagree on North, but I maybe Exit to Eden is really bad and he deserves it.
So, Exit to Eden is an adaptation of an Anne Rice novel. And on Wikipedia, it just says the novel explores the subject of BDSM in romance novel form, which is exactly what you want from a Dan Aykroyd film. Looking at the poster, you have a new comedy from the director of Pretty Woman, and you have Dan Aykroyd and Rosie O'Donnell in leather, holding up police badges, and Dan Aykroyd is wearing like a collar and harness. So,
so yeah, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I'm glad you said comedy thriller, not erotic thriller. So I assume it'll be sub 90.
Not the only person to hang dong this year. He was upstaged by Bruno himself.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Do you think Trump's seen Exit to Eden?
Maybe.
Can you imagine if Twitter was around in 1994? That slob Rosie O'Donnell's new film Exit to Eden is a flop. Rosie, put it away. We don't want to see it.
If no ghost can't do it.
And then, of course, the winner, Mr. Orenthal, James Simpson. The juice is loose, and he is winning for Naked Gun 33 and a third, the final insult. And it clarifies Simpson was on trial for murder at the time of his win, and he played Detective Nordberg.
Good, because if you didn't include that, I would have been quite annoyed. Right, so like, have you seen Naked Gun 33 and a third?
No.
Okay, no. I have, of course. I had the box. I love Police Story. I love the Naked Gun films. 33 and a third is obviously it's the weakest. It's that tired Leslie Nielsen recycled gags. But O.J. Simpson is the same as he has been in the previous films. Like, he would not be here if he wasn't on trial for the murder of his wife, or ex-wife, or whatever it was. So technically, like, he should not win this at all. He shouldn't even be nominated. It's only here just for some stupid relevancy from Mr. Razzie. Yeah, fuck that. Like, I strongly disagree. The worst supporting actor this year is Lieutenant Martinez from Color of Night.
Yeah, he genuinely was dreadful, and while I was spacing out during the film, I Googled it expecting to see, like, I think I was wanting to get his character name, so I was like, I'll just look up the nominations for the year, because he'll be, and I was like, what? Hang on, he's not. It was kind of like it would have been a good cinematic moment of me just, like, flipping through things, being like, where? No, he must be here, like, something's gone wrong, like, where is he? Am I at the wrong year? Like, double, triple checking, looking for him everywhere. And he is so bad. He's almost one of the biggest things they've got wrong in Razzie history, I want to say, is nominating the older woman who enjoys sex instead of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, by all means, O.J. Simpson, I haven't seen it. Worst supporting murderer, if you want to make a category for that. The one time I would almost be in favour of him making a category, which, as we discovered, as we're going to cover, John Landis is nominated this year. If you want to make a category just for Landis and OJ to face off, by all means. Like, I know we're very harsh on Mr. Razzie, but like that's one occasion I think where I would be okay with him creating a category just to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, like it'd be fun as well. Like, oh, we're close to Alec Baldwin as well, you know?
Yeah, going to be fun. Like, is Matthew Broderick in the movie this year? Can we laugh at some terrible tragedy that's occurred?
Well, that's it. Seeing Kim Basinger in The Getaway, I was like, so
Oh no.
we were
Cut
so
this,
close to
cut this.
Baldwin, so close to Baldwin.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're a supporting actress. We have a return for Sean Young in Even Cowgirls Get the Blues as Marie Barth.
Again, can't comment. Not seen the film.
Leslie Ann Warren in Colour of Night as Sandra Dorio. I keep wanting to hover over Leslie Ann because I feel like Leslie Ann Warren is the name of an actor I might know, which I want to say for Intersection. Of course, my bacon number for Intersection being filmed in Vancouver is like 2, I think. Watching it was just the crowd was like, oh yeah, those are some names I know. So yeah, probably should have been kinder to Intersection on this episode actually. Well, I'm just alienating.
Intersection, the whole of Vancouver hopefully aren't listening just yet.
Okay, and then we have Elizabeth Taylor in The Flintstones as Pearl Slag Hoople. So how are we going to start this off? I just watched The Flintstones before recording. So,
yeah.
Whereas you have when did you last see it?
I have seen, not even that long, about 4 years ago.
Okay, what sparked this? Were you showing your nephews, or
they were watching it on TV, probably about 20 minutes into it or something, and I just sat down and ended up watching it again with them. So it's fairly recent in my brain. But I've seen this film. This was we had a VHS copy of this. This was a part of my childhood. I've seen this film far too much. Far too much. I said to you, my experience when I was a moody teenager at 14 or whatever, 15, starting to get into cult shows, and the first time I watched Twin Peaks, as soon as Kyle MacLachlan popped up, first thought was, oh, there's the villain from the Flintstones, and this didn't happen all the time. It didn't happen with like Goodman and Moranis and stuff like that, but I didn't know Kyle MacLachlan from other stuff. Yeah, I knew him from the Flintstones.
This film comes out at such a brilliant crossover point where we have like screen legend Elizabeth Taylor in the same movie as Dale Cooper. It's just such a weird like passing of the torch moment where like I feel like you don't get that so much, but like in the 90s you had things like Jack Lemmon and people from like the golden age of cinema just kind of be turning up and like, here's like Jack Lemmon in the Jetsons movie, or here's Jack Lemmon playing like the weird little alien in Flintstones 2, or why is Jimmy Stewart playing?
That's it. You've got like you've got Halle Berry, like you're saying, Elizabeth Taylor. My only ever trivia I have from Flintstones is Sam Raimi makes a small cameo in it somewhere.
I couldn't believe it. He's on TV playing Fred Flintstone. He's like crime scene recreation Fred Flintstone or something.
And it's just such a weird little crossover. And it's right. So it's really hard for me to separate nostalgia as well from this film. I know what it is. I know its reception. I know people. I still find it charming. So my opinion is probably null and void here.
Well,
about the Flintstones.
Well, the film's coming up again later on, so we can maybe speak more about the film itself there. But just to focus in on Elizabeth Taylor, I really like Elizabeth Taylor as an actor, and I think she is good in this film. Like, I kept waiting for her to do something that would, like, to have like a bad scene, or for them to just like humiliate a Hollywood legend in some kind of like big showy way, and it never happened.
No,
and like
she's fun.
She has kind of
she doesn't phone it in. She's not sleepwalking through it. They're not taking the piss out of her. Like, it's not
the easiest part in terms of like she has that sort of like back and forth nagging mother-in-law thing with Fred Flintstone. And like her and John Goodman, like that scene, that wouldn't work as well if they didn't have like two actors with bringing a good confrontational energy to it.
100%.
In fact, I would almost say, beyond the Barney and Fred bromance, the antagonism between Pearl and Fred is almost the best relationship in the film.
Yep, I agree with that.
But it just reminded me, I think, of like the Flintstones was like a formative thing for me, I guess. And like I hadn't seen the movie, but like I watched the cartoon on like TV because it was just one of the very limited cartoons that was on, and that was my introduction to like boomer humor and like hating your wife and hating your mother-in-law particularly. And so that, I think, was my first exposure to like, oh God, I hope I never have a mother-in-law. These things are.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I was entirely with Fred Flintstone on like mother-in-laws are the hated enemy. In fact, maybe I was like, you know what, son-in-laws are the never-ending disappointment. But Fred Flintstone almost like scared me a little bit of like he just is like Wilma. I was like
Hmm.
he beats her like
He beats
behind
the
like
shit
as
out of
soon
her.
as
We've come
those doors
along.
are
We've
closed.
come a long way since the Stone Age, though. It's nice to see the progression.
um,
By the
so
Jetsons, we're all good.
I'm inspired by Steven Seagal's takedown of toxic masculinity, so I just want to address how problematic Fred Flintstone was, and how when I saw Homer Simpson, who's in an otherwise relatively stable marriage with Marge, that was
Hmm.
better
Yeah.
than like the lingering air of violence whenever Fred Flintstone was around. And then we have Kathy Bates in North as Alaskan Mother. Could she have been
Uh,
in On Deadly Ground?
she could have easily been on North and On Deadly Ground could cross over at like certain intersections. I love Kathy Bates. I can't remember Alaskan Mother or any dialogue pieces from her.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. What's this in between Misery and the Water Boy? Like you can do no wrong for me.
um, in between those
Nothing
icons,
else.
in between those like dramatic heavyweights, James Caan and Adam Sandler, um, and then we have the winner, Rosie O'Donnell in Car 54, which I hadn't heard of until seeing it on Kelly's spreadsheet singled out as a TV
Yeah.
adaptation. So she's in Car
Um,
54, Where Are You? Exit to Eden, the BDSM Anne Rice novel. And she's in The Flintstones as Lucille Toody, Sheila Kingston, and Betty Rubble.
yeah. So I can only comment on the Flintstones with her. I know when this came out, there was like backlash, I guess, because obviously Rosie O'Donnell doesn't look like the cartoon Betty Rubble.
What do you mean?
There's I don't know, like maybe certain features are not similar,
I don't
but I
understand. They both have the same coloured hair.
I'm gonna be weird here because I didn't really see the cartoon. The movie was my
Again,
movie
the
was my.
most Kyle contrarian take of all time.
I
I
don't
know
remember.
the Flintstones primarily through the iconic movie. There was a cartoon, you're telling me? Was this like a spin off?
I knew of it. Like it was, I knew it looked like Scooby Doo. I remember bits. Maybe it was on the background or something. But even in limited choices cartoons, I would have stuck on the VHS of this or like North or something stupid. Richie
Yeah.
Rich. I wouldn't have ever chosen to watch it. So I don't care. I think she's fine. I don't really. I don't think this is a big controversial take that Mr. Razzie thinks he's doing here. Um, yeah, whatever. I don't think she's the worst supporting actress. I would probably give it to Jane March, I guess.
She just seems like she's phoning it in Flintstones, to be honest. It's maybe the
Yeah,
film's fault for not giving her anything to do, but she was just like, it was like, oh, here's Rosie O'Donnell wearing, like,
yeah.
none of the women have anything really to do.
No, like
Wilma gets a little bit more, and Halle Berry's walking around in a bikini, but beyond Liz Taylor, it's not like I struggled to see what Rosie O'Donnell did to be worthy for Flintstones, but then she's also in Car 54, Where Are You? In a BDSM movie with Dan Aykroyd, so I'm not ruling her out.
yeah, no, like absolutely. That's the point. It could be well earned, but I can't really comment. And I don't think on Betty Rubble alone it's worth it.
Okay, worst screen couple, Kevin Costner and any of his three wives, Annabelle Gish, Joanne Going, and Mayor Winningham in Wyatt Earp. Both of us are well aware of Kevin Costner's inability to have chemistry with anyone.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I buy it.
Dan Aykroyd and Rosie O'Donnell in Exit to Eden. I kind of want to watch that.
We're never gonna escape 1994 at this rate, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Next special. Because, like, when this is just post Pretty Woman as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so Gary Marshall's going from the high of that, and Pretty Woman's also like gives us one of my other favorite pieces of cinematic trivia, which is that Richard Gere wanted Werner Herzog to direct Pretty Woman, and Herzog
Nice.
was apparently close to doing it.
Hmm. I also like when if we stay here, like there's something I never really talk about much, but like 1994, it's the year of Junior.
Mm-hmm.
There's things here that we could have an eternity of Razzie winners. in this year alone, and like true Razzie winners as well, like bizarre films and boring, like whole spectrum of things come out here. This is the peak of cinema.
Well,
Everything after is just downhill.
is that not the cliche? Is people get really mad about like Forrest Gump beating Pulp Fiction and beating Shawshank and like all that stuff? Like 1984, I think, was taken as like a high for good
Yeah,
cinema, and it's also a good
100.
low for low
Yeah,
cinema.
it's got the contrast as well. So
Yeah.
but anyway, that's getting off topic. So continue.
Yeah, okay. We'll cover that in 1994, the year. And then we have the nom for any combination of two people from the entire cast in Color of Night. Congratulations, Jericho, for avoiding misreading two people of color from the entire cast. And then we have a tie. So we
Yeah.
have Sylvester Stallone and Sharon Stone. Nice little
Yeah, it's lovely,
rhyme
isn't it?
there.
Alliteration, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Um,
we have Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt in Interview with the Vampire. So this is where I'm going to throw hands with Mr. Razzie. I should probably
yeah.
develop a more mature way of handling this than threatening to fight him on every single episode, but this is
Well,
outrageous.
it's stupid as well because how can they be the worst screen couple when neither of them are nominated? The film's not nominated in any way. Like even if you hadn't seen this film, it's like why have you picked? You can't just pick this out of nowhere. Like back up, you know.
You know what I'm going to say, Kyle? It's homophobia. That's what it
It,
is. It's just
it
the
is.
idea of two sexy hunks being on screen together. Mr. Razzie doesn't like it. He doesn't like them co-parenting like 100-year-old immortal vampire Kirsten
It's
Dunst. He
it's Tom Cruise and the hint of homosexuality. Just Mr. Razzie runs a mile. We've experienced this through Cocktail. You know, he just will not be able to handle any homoeroticism in his movies. For the record, I love Interview with the Vampire, so I'm
yeah.
furious this is here. I'm furious any mention of this film is in the Razzies.
Yeah.
Again, with the gluttony of shit that's out in 1994, you know, take your pick. It's easy.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, take my Anne Rice adaptation's name out your fucking mouth, Mr. Razzie. Like this, no, it doesn't deserve to be anywhere near here. Certainly not in this category where, like, I don't know, I'd argue that almost like set the template for things like What We Do in the Shadows. Is it's just
Yeah.
that sort of like almost like domestic, like odd couple thing of just like, okay, this guy has made me immortal and now I'm kind of stuck with him.
Yeah, yeah, it's great film. We can talk about the sequel later. In 2002 or whatever.
I haven't seen any of them, but that's because Tom and Brad aren't in it. Had they been in it, I would have been first in line. But we will hand final word on the subject over to friend of the show, Kelly, vampire aficionado, who I look to as the definitive authority on all number of things, not least Interview with the Vampire. And she said, long story short, they didn't deserve to win, but I can see why they did. I think Cruise played an amazing Lestat and is a great foil to Pitt's downtrodden woe is me portrayal of Louis. They bring out the worst in each other and it's fun to watch their back and forth. I would be very interested to hear people's reasons for disliking them as an on-screen pair, since I think they play off each other so well. I have a huge bias here because this movie was my first real introduction to both of these actors, so it's easier for me to accept them in these roles, but I think that part of this worst couple sentiment stems from the novelness of seeing two huge actors playing vampires in a domestic situation. I think it's also very interesting that this was the first year that the Razzies included a worst screen couple category, so I suspect they got carried away and did the tie, plus the allure of Interview having been nominated for 2 Oscars. So, worst director, Richard Rush for Colour of Night, covered that at length. Rob Reiner for North.
I like Rob Reiner. Like I said before, I don't love him, but yeah, it's strange. North is a bad film, but it's a weird. I just don't. No, I like it. I don't think he deserves a nomination.
It's funny how some people can just like fall through like Razzie obscurity entirely, because Rob Reiner, I guess this is close enough to that incredible hot streak he had of Spinal Tap, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally. Whereas have you seen the crap that he's been churning out recently?
Of course, everyone. It's the 90s, so this is when like Coppola turns. You know,
Yeah,
beloved
exactly.
John Carpenter is starting to turn out shit at this point. Like, if you had a great hot streak in the 80s, it's coming crashing to an end. It like music. You know, if you were fucking New Order aren't doing their best, they're world in motion at this point. You know, the 80s are long gone.
I mean, I know we all have our Jacks and we have our Norths, but I just think it's funny how like Coppola, I think even towards like Coppola was still on the Razzie radar, wasn't he? Whereas Rob Reiner sinks so low he falls off it completely.
Yeah,
Like, is Rob Reiner not still releasing films?
yeah. He's
But
still
it's like,
threatening a Spinal Tap too.
yeah, it's like Seagal in Russia. Is he's just so far off the radar that even Mr. Razzie is like, whatever. And then we have worst director John Landis for Beverly Hills Cop 3.
3.
Yeah,
Have you seen it?
I've only seen one.
Oh, it had the trilogy for Asta box set. Of course.
I only got one from Asda, unfortunately.
Beverly Hills Cop 3 is really bad. I don't need to explain. It's in the formula's running to an end. It's Naked Gun 33 and a third syndrome. It's flat. It's stupid. Landis doesn't direct any of the first two, I don't believe. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So it's strange that he comes in at this point. But this is also
It's
1994.
Trading Places and Coming to America. I think it's probably was it a name that did the first two? I think it was that this needed a director, and Murphy had a good time working with Landis, so he's like,
Definitely.
"Hey, come on in, my friend."
I could be wrong, and I could be speaking out my ass, but I believe the second one is a big name director as well. You might have to go Google it. But the third one is, I mean, it's 94 Landis as well, again with the Blues Brothers 2000 on the horizon, and the advent of Max Landis's acting career, A Way to Start. Yeah, like, it's a bad directed movie. He probably deserves it. If it wasn't for Richard Rush, he'd be the winner out of my pick so far.
So you're never gonna get this. 2 is Tony Scott.
Fucking see, I knew it was someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the jump from Tony Scott to John Landis kind of says all about the quality of the films as well.
It's funny, we have 2 entrants with screenwriting offspring. So we have John Landis, of course, and then we have Lawrence Kasdan for Wyatt Earp.
So I like Lawrence Kasdan for other things, obvious things that we know about, but I still haven't seen Wyatt Earp. I don't really think of him as a director that much.
No.
So his actual directorial filmography is something I can't really comment on.
Yeah. Apparently Costner was pulling Ned Norton. He was very involved, shall we say, in
Okay.
Because at this point he's like, "Hey, listen, where's your Oscar?"
Yeah, I mean, in 1994, Kevin Costner, like,
we've just seen him like Messiah Complex and Dance of the Wolves. And then, speaking of Messiah Complexes, worst director Steven Seagal for On Deadly Ground.
Where to begin? Technically, yes, he's not a great director. He doesn't direct great. The performances he gets out of people are questionable. As a movie, as a vision, I adore him for that. It's something like, it's hard to say. It's anything after this or before it has different formulas. They don't really capture the essence of Steven Seagal in the way On Deadly Ground does. As an actual director, though, obviously he's not great. Obviously he's bad, but he still managed to have a cohesive voice and unlike Color of Night, which I just fucking didn't give a shit about, and the director felt like he didn't give a shit about. No one felt like they gave a shit about. Yeah, like Seagal's not winning this for me.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And then worst screenplay On Deadly Ground, written by Ed Horowitz and Ruben Russin. So, do you have anything to say about your suspicions that Seagal was involved in this process?
I don't think it's like shadow writing or anything. I think it's just on set. Like, I'm doing it this way. I'm delivering my lines differently.
He's written some stuff on a napkin that he wants to say.
Yeah, the monologue that's notorious that we spoke about at the end is definitely all him. Like, there's no way it's not. The essence of a man and some of the weirder stuff are definitely him. And
well, Goyer's also involved. So,
yeah, but he's people are working on Kane. People are trying to make the story work. Those are the writers that are credited. No one's really writing for Steven Seagal because he doesn't have other lines either, he's so minor dialogue apart from the odd weird quip that maybe someone else wrote. 100% he wrote and made up his own lines on the spot. And yeah, because he is known for, he doesn't give a shit about scripts, like he's not an actor. He's an egotistical ponytail that plays the blues. But again, it's not the worst screenplay. It's coherent. It makes it simple. It's easy to follow. My dog managed to pay attention. It's not the worst written thing. It's not the worst written Seagal film. It's not the worst written film in 1994. So glad to see it didn't win.
Then we have North, screenplay by Alan Zweibel and Andrew Scheinman, based on a novel by Zweibel.
Oh, I didn't know it was a novel. That's new. Yeah, North's obviously a mess. It's chaotic. It's weird. It is that journey film. We're going through meet a character, move on, do a thing. So I get it being nominated, but it's not a winner for me.
And then we have Milk Money. So, Milk Money, have you seen it?
I've just never even heard of it.
Neither had I, and I looked it up. The film is about three suburban 11-year-old boys who find themselves behind in the battle of the sexes, believing they would regain the upper hand if they could just see a real, live, naked lady.
Nice.
The film received generally negative reviews from critics.
But was beloved by fans of Porky's.
Well, it stars Melanie Griffith and Ed Harris, and it is produced by Kathleen Kennedy, who... Strong year for Star Wars. Do you not think that she's the woman that killed Star Wars, Kyle? Have you not said that to me on many occasions? Women are ruining my Star Wars. Women should not be in Star Wars. How can Rey use the Force this well?
I'm not taking the bait. I'm not saying a word.
Okay, now just me espousing ironic misogyny, which isn't very funny. So thank you for not playing along. But Milk Money sounds abhorrent, and
Yeah.
I don't want to watch that. But it's interesting that you could still make a movie about that in 1994.
That's the biggest surprise. Why is Ed Harris in it?
Yeah.
Like I don't. Yeah, sounds weird. I wouldn't want to watch that, even in a ironic way. Like, it's not worth my time.
Colour of Night, screenplay by Matthew Chapman and Billy Ray, story by Ray, covered that at length. And here we go, big breath. The Flintstones, written by Thomas Parker, Babaloo Mandel, Mitch Markovitz, Dana Seville, Brian Levant, Michael G. Wilson, Al Idikman, Cindy Begel, Lloyd Garver, David Silverman, Steven Sustarsic, Nancy Steen, Neil Thompson, Daniel Golden, Joshua Golden, Peter Martin Wortman, Robert Conte, Jeff Reno, Ron Osborne, Bruce Cohen, Jason Hoft, Kate Barker, Gary Ross, Rob Dames, Leonard Rips, Fred Fox Jr., Lon Diamond, David Richardson, Roy Tyker, Richard German, Michael J. DeGaetano, and Ruth Bennett. The Flintstones.
So Jesus Christ, that's a lot.
So it does say say only 2 credited writers, and yeah, it does say there were 3 credited writers in total, and the other 31 recipients all wrote drafts of the screenplay.
Oh yeah,
so this just stinks of a little piece of...
Yeah.
But this is notorious in Hollywood. I'm sure tons of movies would have that many nominees. It just strikes me something Mr. Razzie found out and was like, ha ha ha, this would be a funny win.
So the only name that sticks out to me there is Michael G. Wilson, Bond. He wrote my Dalton Bonds. He produced a lot though. Into the 90s, like post Broccoli and all that. Like the modern, since the 80s, he's been always heavily involved.
Yeah.
So that links me to Casino Royale. And that's how I imagine the Flintstones was written. You pass it about, here mate, can you have a look at this? Can you make this make sense? How do I want Elizabeth Taylor in it. How can I write her into it? Like, how do we do that? It's just get some money. It's favors. It's just if they're uncredited, then it's just calling in favors. If they are credited, then it's just so they can get a buck, I guess, help out a friend.
I honestly think the Flintstones was pretty cohesive. I can't even see like separate takes on movies that it wanted to be. Like it's not incredible, but the narrative that drives it of Barney lies to get Fred job and Fred, yeah, like it seems like a singular vision. I think this is the opposite. I think every screenwriter in Hollywood was itching to get their hands on the Flintstones. And so they were just contributing like one-off gags of like, what's the thing you'd like to see in Flintstones?
That's what I meant by Casino Royale, the 1967 one. It's like, put in a joke, like, I'll give this to my friend.
You write a line for a little creature that's going to say, it's a living.
Exactly. It's I would call it the Mike Love line of what do I need to do to get credited? Well, I said... I told you to use 3 words in that. Like, give me a credit. You might have done everything else, but I suggested 1 word or a line. Give me a credit. Give me my money. Cynical, but when you're making a Flintstones movie, where that's kind of some of the point of the film as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
it's okay.
So yeah, just because this is our last opportunity for General Flintstones talk, I guess does come up later on. But so I didn't really see it when I was a kid, so I feel like I can confidently say this isn't nostalgia, or at the very least, it's nostalgia for an era. I thought it was okay. Like I thought it was fine. Like I had like a little was this the same time as Casper?
I think so. I think Casper's 95, sorry.
Okay, well, I had a little Flintstones bubble watch, which I often wore interchangeably, or indeed on the opposite wrist from my Casper bubble watch. So that's how this plays into my nostalgia. But I thought it was fine, like, not good, not bad. It's very interesting from a visual standpoint. And
Yeah.
what you were saying last week with the being that transition point between practical effects and CGI, I was really surprised with how CGI heavy it was.
Yep.
So
But
yeah,
you've got that
interesting.
glorious intersection where there is still animatronics and
Yeah,
like
puppet birds and
there is
things.
still,
Yeah.
but yeah, and it's a strange. The aesthetic of the film is on. You can't replicate it. You couldn't even replicate it in the sequel. Like this
Oh,
is
to be a
such.
production designer on the Flintstones making
I would
big
have.
polystyrene like ribs for John
Well,
Goodman
that's
to
it.
eat.
It's why I was trying to sell the Mario Brothers film to you because it's
Mhm.
mid 90s. Go, you
Yeah,
can kind of do what you want, have fun.
uh,
Like,
it's a golden
um,
era.
it's a golden era. Excess. I love it.
And then we have Worst New Star, Shaquille O'Neal in Blue Chips as Neon Bordeaux. Have you seen
Yeah.
Blue Chips?
I have not seen Blue Chips. Don't never heard of it.
Covered on previous episodes. We've liked him in Sandman Ventures, and as you
Hmm.
said, Shaq is an incredibly charismatic man, so
Yep.
nothing
Yep.
to say here. Chris Isaac in Little Buddha as Dean Conrad.
So I've not seen Little Buddha, so I can't comment. Chris Isaac. I recognize the name, but I don't know who that is. Um.
Little Buddha is a Bertolucci movie, so he'd have made after Last Emperor. I don't know if he was trying to do Kandan, but I have
Ah.
no idea what Chris Isaac is doing in that. Because Chris
Chris
Isaac
Isaac, Bridget Fonda, and Keanu Reeves. That's a
Chris Isaac would have been 40 when he was in Little Buddha.
yeah.
So interesting. Then we have another Chris Elliott in
Yeah.
Cabin Boy as Nathaniel Mayweather.
So like this is obviously the film. Have you seen Carbon Boy? Sorry.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Okay. Carbon Boy's weird. It is a cult classic. I like Chris Elliott. I like Carbon Boy, but I understand why people don't like it. It's the film that killed off Chris Elliott's chance of success. You know, you're going from Letterman, I think it was, and this
Yeah.
SNL time as well, which wasn't a success either. You know, he's always going to be a supporting man. He's not going to be a Sandman after this point. But I like Chris Elliott. I think he's got like a weird energy, especially when he's younger. Yeah, like I like him a lot. So, and I like Carbon Boy a lot. So, yeah, I don't like this.
Our next nominee has faded to obscurity. Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Dumb and Dumber, and The Mask as Ace Ventura, Lloyd Christmas, and Stanley Ipkiss / The Mask. So, I mean, isn't even dropping the ball. This is just like clearly, I don't know, maybe to some people, Jim Carrey was like a Josh Gad or a James Corden, but like for three of like the biggest defining
Yeah,
defining comedic performances of the 90s, I guess he
and
rubbed
it's
someone the wrong way.
well, that's it. This is fucking stupid, and this is personal as well. This is a contrarian hipster
Yeah.
opinion. You cannot say like the only fucking thing about it. You know, Jim Carrey's the worst new star. I would have loved The Mask if it wasn't for Jim Carrey. You know, I fucking Ace Ventura would have been a blast if it wasn't for Jim Carrey. You know, like
Like
actually fuck right off. Like
when he's
stupid.
just burst on the scene, like I can understand how like even now with like us saying Josh Gad, James Corden, whatever, those people are annoying primarily because they're oversaturated.
Yeah.
Whereas Jim Carrey, I'm sorry, Jim Carrey has just burst on the scene. So for you to be immediately worn out on him, like
Yeah.
is Mr. Razzie being like, oh, I could have done that. I
Yep.
could have been Ace
It
Ventura.
feels so bizarre. Again, the only part of Dumb and Dumber like I disliked was Jim Carrey. Like, no, it's fucking if
Exactly. You would nominate
you're
him for other stuff, wouldn't you?
exactly the film would be tearing apart. Like, this is such a personal, weird. weird nomination. If it won, I'd have been much more angry. But
It just makes me wonder if, like, I like to just imagine, like, Mr. Razzie at the back of the audience during Raw being like, I didn't really care for that. Or, like, seeing Robin Williams burst onto the scene and just,
yeah,
like being like, yeah, personally not my bag.
no,
This guy's the
absolutely.
worst thing I've seen in the past year. All these
um,
electric comedy moments, and he's just like, sucks.
so fucking, it's so
Um,
weird. But yeah, continue.
like you would struggle to find a more star-making year than that.
Yeah, like it's I I I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's so
Um,
bizarre.
Worst film career, James Dean for Rebel Without a Cause, Giant and East of Eden. Worst filmography. Then the winner, of course, Anna Nicole Smith in Naked Gun, 33 and a third. The final insult is Tanya Peters.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh fuck, she's dead as well. Sorry. So all respects as
Yeah.
well to Anna Nicole Smith. Obviously, she's like basically what I said about Jenny McCarthy, minus the crude humor, is how she is in Naked Gun. But
hmm
like, it's also Naked Gun 33 and a third, so it's you know it's not going to be her making, but she's not good in it. I would have thought Jane March would have been here because I assumed this was her breakthrough at Color and Night, so she's not been nominated here. Surprises me.
Jim
Not that I
Carrey was
think
worse.
Jim Carrey was first. Fuck
There's
Chris
only
Elliott.
5 spots. Sorry.
No one will ever remember Shaq. Like fucking, let's go. Yeah, but I guess it's also got that tinge of like hindsight of knowing what Anna Nicole Smith suffers through as well in her life. What? Yeah, whatever.
Okay, and then we have worst original song. So, Under the Same Sun from On Deadly Ground, written by Mark Hudson, Klaus Meine, Scott Fairbairn. The Color of the Night from Color of Night. Music and lyrics by Judd J. Friedman, Lauren Christie, and Dominic Frontier. And Marry the Mole from Thumbelina. Music by Barry Manilow. Lyrics by Jack Feldman and Bruce Sussman. What do you think?
Right. So Under the Same Sun is something that Mr. Razzie ripped pretty hard on in his
Yeah,
review. It's not that bad. I mean, it's not
I don't
what I'd
like
listen
it.
to. No, right. It's the Scorpions. I forgot it was the Scorpions.
Yeah.
Rock You Like a Hurricane. And it is just the blandest of, rock, like whatever rock.
But
I
the
know you don't,
lyrics, it's a bit Steven Seagal tinged
but
of like,
it's
we're
enough
all under
tinge.
the same
Yeah.
sun, sharing the
Um,
same mum. I'm British now for some reason.
it's not till like Fire Down Below that we're gonna get Seagal performing for us.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let it be nominated because it's not Seagal performing it, and that would have been better. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's not the worst. It's not the fucking worst song in the world. I wouldn't listen to it, but it's not
Of these
worst
three,
original
it's the
song.
worst.
I'm gonna go right. Well, I'm gonna be contra. I think Marry the Mole is the worst,
But
and I
like,
don't know. It's nothing. It's a minute and a half, and it's homages other things, and it's talk song as well. Talk speech kind of singing.
well, that's
But
precisely my point. Is I'm like, Marry the Mole just seems like such a weird thing to single out. Was as like, is Mr. Razzie a parent? Did Mr. Razzie have kids and they were always watching Thumbelina? Because
okay,
unless this is like something he listened to in the car all the time, unless this is his
well,
Let It Go, I find it
I'm not.
weird that he discovered Marry the Mole and got so annoyed about it, he
Yeah.
would then bring it up at the end of the
Well,
year.
I okay. So my criteria for this literally, what one would I not want to listen to, like walking to the shops or something, And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, it probably would be Marley the Mole. I don't want to listen to that. I would never pick that, ever. So
See,
by
I
that,
kind of like Marry the Mole when it switches into that jazzy kind of like big band
for
Chicago,
the
like.
last 10 seconds, yeah, no,
um,
I'll let that one slide.
okay, and then our final category, worst remake or sequel, Love Affair, which was starring our old friend Warren Beatty, The
Hmm.
Flintstones, City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold, Beverly Hills Cop 3, and Wyatt Earp. So, any closing thoughts? Wyatt Earp won, of course.
Well,
But
what's Wyatt Earp again? I'm sure I've said this fucking so many times, but what's
you
Wyatt
have
Earp a
said
remake?
this.
Yeah, it doesn't
Um,
fucking count. Beverly Hills Cop 3 is the real winner here. I would also give a shout out to like Mighty Ducks 2, I think was this year, and there's worse out there. If you dug through 1994, you would have
okay,
seen much worse.
do you want me to give you a quick blast from the stinkers?
Yes, please do.
So most of the same nominations. I'll just single out a couple titles that stand out to me. Natural Born Killers.
Yeah. Okay.
Airheads, Blankman, City
Ah,
Slickers 2, The Cowboy Way, Frankenstein, the Ken Branagh one, Getting Even with Dad, Highlander 3, The Final Dimension, I'll Do Anything, Lightning Jack, Little Indian Big City, Major League 2, Mixed Nuts, Pulp Fiction, Ready to
okay.
Wear, the Swan Princess. So that's a little flavour of what else was coming out
Okay.
in.
Okay, that's quite shocking. Highlander 3 is real bad. It's better than Highlander 2. I'm surprised that's not popped up at all in this. The one I actually had a note, I did write it down somewhere. I was just frantically looking for what it was. The worst film I hate from 1994 that would be perfect for this category is The Next Karate Kid, with Hilary
Oh,
Swank.
yeah, no,
It,
it does. It's nominated in another category. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, like I love it. I'm such a Karate Kid 3 fan here. Like I'm low bar,
Yeah.
low bar. I hate The Next Karate Kid. I would have stuck that, at least nominated it here. It killed the franchise. Probably deserves it just for that alone.
Yeah, I guess I haven't seen enough this year to have any big thoughts. So, yeah, the Flintstones doesn't deserve it, I would say. So I would
No,
just rely on you being able to find some dross like, yeah, Karate Kid,
and that's
Next
the thing.
Karate Kid, or
You nominate Naked Gun how many fucking times, but when
yeah,
it's not the worst remake
when
or
the moment
sequel, yeah,
comes,
yeah, like nah,
you
get off your
phrase
fucking yeah,
can't pull the trigger.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that concludes another episode as we chalk off another year. Join us next time when we'll be heading into Kyle's deepest, darkest fears with 2007 and I Know Who Killed Me. So
I
he'd forgotten
genuinely
we'd agreed
forgot.
that.
I
Yeah.
was sitting there and I was like, drum roll, please. I was
I
like,
could
oh my
see on
god,
your
what?
face it was like a real time realization.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Okay, well, sold that well for the audience. So I'll see you next week,
Yeah,
everybody.
join us for that. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch, you can email us at watchingworstfilms@gmail.com. Feel free to leave us reviews on your podcast provider of choice. And if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us at Watching Worst. So, pithy sign off.
No, just thanks for sticking around. This was a tough one. I felt like we gave this too much time, as we often do over these Zoom calls as well. I feel like I can ramble on too much with them, but it was miserable, but it was a good year for a film. I'm dreading next week. See you then.
Yeah.
Yourself?
No, I was throwing over to you for a one-liner. I was like, here's Kyle ending on trademark Seagal earnestness.
Yeah, no.
I was waiting for you to say, I'll be back. And instead you're like, thank you guys. Your support means a lot to me. But you know what really needs our support? The planet. Because global warming is, and I'm going to fade out on
Perfect.
Oh, we should have
Right.
had the guy, remember? That was our ending, was the guy who's like echoes over the hey pendejo, you you
Just
flowers.
fucking I should have done my fucking crazy bastard. Don't give anyone a podcast. Get it done!